Hello everyone, and I hope you're all doing very well. Today we have the distinct pleasure of reviewing or doing the buyer's guide for the Ka-50 Blackshark module in DCS World. Now, to keep this video uniform with the other videos of the other reviews that we've done and keep it comparable, we will use the same reviewing structure. 1. Capability. We'll look at the weapons, the sensors, the navigation, and miscellaneous. 2. The visual effects inside the cockpit and outside of the cockpit. We'll be rating that from 1 to 5, 5 being the best. And with this rating, we'll be able to compare it directly with other modules in DCS World. To do that, please refer to the score sheet link in the video description, where you'll see all of the different aircraft rated by me, and as well as that by the other members of GR, so you can get a good feel for not just my opinion. 3. Sound effects inside the cockpit and external, again rated between 1 and 5. 4. Interactivity and detail. How interactive is the cockpit? How many of the buttons and dials can I turn and press? How does it feel when I do that? How many detail systems are there behind that in the cockpit, etc. Rated 1 to 5. 5. Flight model. Again rated 1 to 5. Not necessarily how accurately does it fly to the real aircraft. That is just something that we expect as a default from being in DCS World, but more interested in the immersion. How immersive is the flight model? How can we feel the dynamics, the physics of the aircraft, the weight of it? Are there any things in the flight model that make us feel that we're flying a video game rather than a real helicopter? 6. Difficulty. How difficult is this module compared to the others to pick up, to learn to fly, to learn to use the navigation, the weapons, and so on? This won't be counted in the overall score of the aircraft because 1 and 5 easy and hard are neither good nor bad, but it's just to give you an idea. 7. A rough history of the aircraft since it's been out. Has it had a smooth ride or has it had lots of bugs, as some of the aircraft has? Of course, DCS World is a constantly evolving entity, and as such modules do develop bugs that need sorting out, so just to give you a rough idea. Okay, welcome to the cockpit of the Blackshark. So the Blackshark is a Soviet attack helicopter from the late 80s. First of all, we'll look at the weapons. So we've got 4 weapons pylons. So on pylons 1 and 4, the outer pylons, we can have bombs. We can have a unguided slick general purpose 250 kilo bomb or a 500 kilo variant, or either of the KMGU2 dispensers. These are cluster munitions. The actual dispenser canister stays equipped to the vehicle and the bomblets drop down, and we can have either anti-infantry or anti-armor variants. These are similar weapons to what we find on the Su-25. Or we can have fuel tanks. The engines on this are extremely powerful, and so it does guzzle the gas when you're using them at high power, so we can have fuel tanks. It doesn't say how many litres, but there we are. Then we've got missiles. We've got the APU-6, which is a launcher which contains 6 times Vickers missiles. The Vickers are guided missiles, and it's interesting how they work. They're known as beam riding missiles. So what we have is a laser, the ability to laser a target with this vehicle, which we'll show later. Then we fire the Vickers missile, and it will essentially, as it goes, rotate around the laser beam and guide itself along the beam until it eventually impacts with the target. There's a range of about 8 to 9 kilometers we've found. We've then got the KH-25ML. This is a single missile, a much larger missile with a much heavier warhead. The range is improved. We got to about 16 kilometers total range using it against anti-ship. And it's laser guided as well, but a little bit different now how it works. It's not a beam rider. Instead, it seeks the laser where the laser hits the target and splashes off. It detects that splash and guides to the target that way. So this rides the beam, this detects the target splash. Pods, we have a UPK-23-250. It's the same is carried, well, in a series of Soviet aircraft, but in the Mi-8 I remember. It's a self-contained pod which contains, as you can see, 2 twin 23mm cannon with 250 rounds. And the ammo is self-contained. Or rockets, we've got a pod, a B-13L, which contains 5 S-13 relatively high caliber rockets, or the B-8 pod, which contains 20 smaller caliber rockets of various warhead. Next, if we move to pylons 2 and 3, it's fairly similar. The bombs is the same, fuel tanks is the same, pods is the same, Rockets is the same, so we're just missing missiles on these two inner pylons. And as well as that, we have the mighty cannon. We have a single-barreled 30mm cannon to the right fuselage here, and it's not hard fixed to the hull. In fact, it's swivelable, so we can move it left and right to a certain amount, and up and down to quite a high amount. I guess you'd say fairly similar to something like an Apache gun that can move around, but we don't have quite that much flexibility in the movement. The gun is high velocity and effective up to around just below 4 kilometers, we found. So next we need to talk about how we utilize these weapons and in this helicopter. And we have an excellent suite for utilizing the weapons. They're mainly based around the Shkval here. This is the same or similar unit that we see in the Su-25 series. It's essentially an optical tracker on the front of the nose, or the lower nose of the aircraft, and we can point it in whichever direction we want within certain slewable limits. You can see the slew limits in there, and we can usually see them up here as well. You see that box there is the slew limit. So left and right a fair amount, up a little bit and down loads. So we can almost aim it vertically down. This is not a tutorial, so we're not going to go very in depth here, but you know, we can pick that Mercedes van or whatever it is there. If we wanted, we could turn our laser on. If I can remember which is the laser, I think it's that one there. And we can laze that van, or just laze the base for now. And you can see we've got that at 0.2 kilometers, and then we could deploy our weapons on that Shkval target there. So for my guided missiles, I would essentially lock this target up with an optical contrast lock. I would then laze the target, and then I could fire the missiles if I was within parameters. For the gun, I could either just shoot from the hip with a neutral crosshair, or I could use the Shkval like this, a bit like I'm using with the missiles. I would laze the target. We have a laser here for range finding, for marking, and for target designation. So a multi-purpose laser. And then the weapons control system would add any lead or whatever I needed to do for the gun, and the gun, as I said, would hit directly where the Shkval is. As well as that, we have a helmet-mounted display in this helicopter, which is pretty awesome if I can remember how to use it. Let me arm us up. There we go. So what I'm doing now is I've set us up so we're controlling the cannon and the Shkval at the same time, and as well as that, the gun is moving wherever I point my head within the slew limits, and I can take out whatever I want. Get some. And you can see the slew limits in that kind of heavy rectangle. So that's the third way that we can shoot the cannon. So if I was in a dogfight with another helicopter, I could use my helmet mounted display here to track the helicopter across the screen, taka 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 taka, and so on. Regarding the bombs, we've got two really different ways that we can drop the bomb. We've got a CCIP type system, similar to the CCIP in a modern aeroplane, and we've got a CCRP type system as well, where we can actually drop bombs from up at like 10,000 feet. So we can get the Shkval basically to look directly down and act as a modern digital bomb sight to bomb. It's really difficult to do, but it's amazing the possibilities we've got there. Regarding the rockets, we can they are hard fixed to the pylons, so I can't use the head-mounted display per se, but I can fire either from the hip at a center-mounted crosshair, or I could use the Shkval here to find a target and then use the laser to range the target, and that would give me guidance to aim my aircraft to fire those rockets, to compensate for the lead, for the dip and whatnot, to get my rockets directly on target. So I guess you describe that as a type of CCIP, which is pretty impressive and really accurate as well. Put my helmet mounted display away. As you can see, everything is based around this good modern HUD we've got here. The HUD is fully configurable depending on what we're doing. So if I do certain tasks, it will remove certain gauges and add certain other gauges and measurements and whatnot. Excellent. I've never found anything wanting for this HUD. It's always got everything I need to see. Takes a little while to get used to because it is a little different from an aeroplane, but that's just how it is. Looking at other systems and capability in the aircraft, we have a decent flare suite here, or countermeasure suite, where we can program. We have plenty of flares that we can carry in our wingtips. I guess we can't see them here, and we can create programs for using those. Also have a laser warning system here, so we can tell if we're being lased by a hostile, which is important for an attack helicopter, or any helicopter really. Regards communication, we've got a VHF, kind of general purpose VHF radio here, where we can program any frequency we want here, and we've got an FM radio down here somewhere. Here it is, and this is pre-programmed only, which is annoying, but it works well, and this allows us to communicate to troops on the ground, to tanks and stuff like that. We have a comprehensive autopilot suite. Now the autopilot is a little, well, very different from anything else I've ever understood in terms of helicopters, so very different to what you'd have in a kind of an Mi-8 or a Huey or something. In those aircraft you would fly around without the autopilot on and just use your, you know, cyclic and your rudder and your collective. In this aircraft, it has a kind of fly-by-wire type system. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but I think it's a fairly good term to describe it, in that you fly around with the autopilots on all the time. You almost never fly this thing without some sort of controlled autopilot on. So just in natural flight like this, we've got turned on the pitch hold, the bank hold, and the heading hold. We've also got a flight director type hold, which gives us more, I guess you describe it as free flight capability, and we've got altitude hold as well. Now that's quite a complex suite to understand, and to not end up fighting against these you need to really read the manual carefully to understand exactly what they do, otherwise you will not have much joy flying this helicopter. For navigation we have, well, to be honest, some amazing ability here. Where do we start? I guess we start with the PVI 800 here. This is an INS based navigation system, similar I guess to what you would get in you know, your Mirage, your Hornets, Tomcat and whatnot, as well as INS, inertial navigation system input. It takes a whole load of other environmental inputs, I think, as well as ground Doppler to calculate its position. It's waypoint based, so you know, you have a series of waypoints and you can create a flight plan and fly between those waypoints, including waypoints for home base, target and whatnot. We've got full videos of exactly how to work this and what everything does. There's excellent capability once you understand how to use it. Then we have the Abris, which is just quite amazing, to be honest. It is essentially, it's almost kind of an add-on to the Ka-50, and it is a satellite navigation system. Let me just give you a better idea of what we've got here. So I guess you could call it like a glorified moving map. It's based around the satellite navigation, but it's not just navigation, it's also situational awareness. So for instance, I guess you could say similar to the moving map, the tactical awareness display in the A10C, where we can see not just us, but we can actually data link to other Ka-50s in the area and coordinate attacks. We can share navigation information, we can share targeting information to different aircraft. So it's not just for us, it's for organising the whole squad, the whole flight of Ka-50s. And there's loads of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through it because it's not a tutorial, but it is basically more stuff than you could ever need, I'll put it that way. And our data link supports up to 4 aircraft, I believe, and allows us to share all that information. It's really good stuff. So I'll say this is probably more advanced navigation than any other aircraft in DCS. Let me know if you disagree with that, but I think most of you would agree with that. If all of that fails, then we've got radio-based communication. We've got a, sorry, I've forgotten actually where the dials are here, but based on the VHF, we've got an ADF, automatic direction finding, and that will allow us to take us to beacons, in and out of markers at runways, or one-off NDBs. And we've, as well as that, we've got FM homing ability. So our FM radio here, we can tune into a distress signal from a tank, and this all works in DCS, by the way. A tank transmitting on 30 FM or something like that, and allow us to direction find to him, to support him, or search and rescue, or whatever. We've even got an old school navigation HSI there. So I'm sure you'd agree, an excellent comprehensive suite of navigation. So next we want to talk about the graphics. First inside and then outside. Now this aircraft, I believe, is the oldest high fidelity aircraft in DCS. I believe it's 2008, so that is 11 plus years old now, and in the world of computer games or simulators, that's a lifetime. So the best thing to do is just have a look around the cockpit and let you guys decide for yourself. It's looking a bit like the A10C in here, a bit old. The textures, they're all bitty, the buttons are blocky, you know, so don't get me wrong, it functions perfectly, but it's starting to look a bit low depth. Now I believe a correction for this is coming out soon in terms of textures and maybe meshes as well. I'm not sure whether it's free or you have to pay for it. I don't know, so I'm not going to speculate, but I know there is an upgrade. For all aircraft you can download third-party textures to turn it into a much more high definition, but I can't review that because it's not official. You see, back here it's just getting really 2008. Whoops. Bit blocky down here, if you know what I mean. Again, really reminds me of the A10C. It's all getting all bitty around here. It's in 2008, I guess that would have been top of the range, but it's just a bit worn out now, isn't it? No, it's a bit cheap round here. Oh yeah, I forgot to say we've got an ejector seat. When you eject, the rotors blow off, and we've got a proper like aircraft ejector seat. It's really cool. Oh dear, it's looking a bit bad around here, isn't it? Nasty. Okay, let's go and have a look outside, shall we? There's your child. Textures are looking a bit iffy close up, aren't they? Such a cool gun this is. I don't know where the ammo goes in. Oh, I should forgot to tell you. I'm just so used to these things. It's of course twin rotor, so we don't have a rotor on the back. Whopping great tail fin. So it is a lovely module. It's one of the best modules out there. Probably maybe the best-selling module, but if one of the best-selling modules it must be. But she is starting to look a bit 2008, isn't she? But that is the nature of things. So as a score for the graphics, and I hate to rate it down because I just love this module to fly, but at best in here, in the cockpit, it's a 2 out of 5. Best outside with its, you know, odd scaling textures, it's going to be 3. So visuals, it's going to be 2.5 for this. Next, we're going to look at sound effects. I know you can probably barely hear me. That's because I review all of these aircraft on what I call my basic setup. So what I want to do is I have a basic setup for all aircraft, and I expect those aircraft to be set up and sound mixed properly to work. So they all work uniformly with a standard setup. If you have to be modifying these for each aircraft, then those aircraft are simply wrong. This is a very noisy cockpit. There's nothing wrong with that. To me, it adds lots of immersion. If you don't like it, you can always turn it down. It sounds good in here. Let's listen outside. Outside, I've always felt it's a little bit quiet for such a powerful helicopter. But the sound is lovely, to be honest. I've never had a problem with the quality of the sound. Let's see if we can have a play with the throttle. Yeah, the RPM of the turbines are going up and down. I don't fully know how to control it, but there we go. Didn't like it, did it? Okay, we better do some flying. Let's see how she sounds in the air. Hear the strain of the turbines there. Turn that Schwal off, it's going to drive me nuts. Hear the turbines straining even more as I put the collective on. It's a very powerful helicopter. In fact, we'll talk about that in the flight model. Woohoo! You can hear when we put that pressure on the rotors there, you can hear that slapping sound. I don't really understand it, but I love the fact that it's there. I may very well crash, but I'm just going to try some maneuvers. Hear that? Gorgeous. Is that gorgeous or is that gorgeous? Cool, huh? Ooh. So yeah. Gunnery sounds. Guess so. It's okay. It could really do some reverb. They really need to add reverb to these cannon sounds in DCS. It sounds fine. So as a cannon, all of the other weapons. I'm not going to start dropping bombs now, but all of the other weapons have the necessary sounds and stuff that we want. Can't think what else other sounds to make. Let's see if we can get a ground rumble. We can actually drive this thing along the ground. I don't expect this to go well, but we'll try. Don't think there's any ground rumble there, but it's not an aeroplane, so I can't really mark it down for that. All round, to be honest, just good solid sounds. They've got the mix right. I don't have to mess about with my sliders, which I don't want to do that. I consider that a fail if I have to do that. Nice, chunky, loud inside. You hear exactly what the turbines are doing. Hear what the blades are doing. Outside, I suppose I should better do a couple of flybys. Just a little bit quiet. Do you hear what I mean? I think it's the only problem I've ever had with the sound. In fact, I'd say it's probably louder in here than it is outside on just, default sound settings. I think it is, isn't it? Other than that, it sounds pretty good. So we need to give that a rating. Let me just stabilise. Come on, trim. I'm a little bit rusty in this, I'm not going to lie. I've cocked my trim up, so I'm going to start again from here. So it's a good solid 4 out of 5. The sounds are all there. There's nothing that annoys me. The outside could do with pumping up a bit, but it's not the end of the world. So we're going to rate that 4 out of 5. Next is the flight model, and until you really know what you're doing in the Ka-50, she's not an easy bird to fly. As you'll probably see, I'm just going to be spending most of this fighting with my trim, simply because I haven't driven there in over 6 months, and I can't really remember how to fly it, to be honest. But it's very different, or it's quite different from what I call simpler aircraft like the Huey and the Mi-8. So in fact for this I think I'm going to go in Flight Director to give me a little more manoeuvrability, a little more control. And the difficult thing about this is that you've got all of those autopilots acting to try and help us. And what you do a lot of the time is actually end up fighting against those autopilots and causing you more problems. And until you really understand those autopilots, it's very difficult to fly this and do exactly what you want to do. You'll know as soon as you get this module, as soon as you start flying around, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. So let's think about rating this flight module. First of all, interaction with the ground is good. I can kind of bounce the wheels off the ground. It's all good. Boom, like that. And I can slide along the ground. I can drive along the ground, and I can lift off. It all feels very good there. So I'm happy with our interaction with the ground. In terms of moving about, it's good. It's solid. It feels like I'm moving a big aircraft. It's not as, I don't want to use the word realistic. I think immersive. I don't find it as immersive as the Mi-8 or the Huey, which I find a lot more immersive. And I think the reason for that is I just don't have that much control of this helicopter. It's going by through a kind of fly-by-wire type system here. I tell the computer what to do, and the computer then decides whether it's going to do what I want or what it wants. So I don't consider myself to have full control like those other two helicopters. But with Flight Director on, it's not too bad. You can see we've got plenty of inertia here. You know, look how long it takes to kind of slow down from yawing and from just moving about, lateral movements, longitudinal movements. Plenty of time. It really feels like I'm moving 10 tons or however heavy this helicopter is. I've got good relatively good fine control. You know, bearing in mind the size and the complexity of this helicopter, and bearing in mind that I am just generally a terrible helicopter pilot anyway, I'm going to try and come up to the cockpit of this jet here. Look, you know. So I got some decent feedback from the flight model, not as much feedback as I get from the other two that I keep mentioning. Those are 5 out of 5 flight models. I don't think this is a 5 out of 5 in the way that it feels. You see what I mean? Oh god. Probably best pretend that just didn't happen. Right, so sorry, where were we? So yeah, I was showing you the fine control, and we've got some decent feedback of that. Next, let's try some harsher control. I mean, this is a big, heavy helicopter. It's fully loaded with fuel at the moment, so it's heavy. Let's see how we can act in terms of manoeuvrability. It's fast as well, powerful engines, 300 kilometers an hour or thereabouts. We do have to be a little careful in going fast, especially when we're using the pitch in a cyclic. We can easily slap our rotor blades together and take our own blades off. All of the helicopters have little things like that. You have to be careful. I want Flight Director, please. Give me more control of this helicopter, thank you. Okay, let's do some silly stuff. Whee! Oh, I'm gonna crash. No, I'm good. I can pretty much do, at these low speeds, I can more or less do whatever I want within reason. You know, bearing in mind it is a big, heavy helicopter. I'm not going to be doing loops and stuff, but good roll, feels about right. It feels a bit like feels a bit fly-by-wiry, but, you know, we've explained why that is. A good turn. Amazingly manoeuvrable, really, for such a big, heavy helicopter. But look at this. Look at that. Rate of climb is amazing compared with the other helicopters. Well, sorry, the Mi-8 and the Huey at least. Let's put full collective on. Let's see what we can do. Look at that. Look at that rate of climb. The engines they're not even struggling. Really powerful. Let's get some speed. Oh, this could end badly. Oh, super cap. See the speedo at the top left there? 150 clicks. 200 clicks. 250 clicks. 260. Come on, 300. It's probably a maximum speed warning. Watch this. Cool, huh? That's so freaking cool. Oh, careful. Careful now, Cap. Pretty cool. Got that fly-by-wire type system in there, keeping me alive. If that was a Huey, I'd definitely be dead. So that's all I can think to show, really. Really, it's a decent. It doesn't give them as much feedback as the MI8 and the Huey, so I can't give it a 5 out of 5 for that. But it's got no faults. Nothing I can really report that feels wrong or fake, or do you know what I mean? It makes you feel like you're in a video game, so I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to rate it a nice solid 4 by... Sorry, I got to concentrate now. 4 out of 5. Oh, this isn't going to end well. Next, we're going to look at interactivity and detail. So, I'm moving around this cockpit. So, I mean, the throttle, for some reason, I can't press. I can use it with the keyboard bind. So I don't know why I can't use it with the mouse cursor. I can't remember what half these things do. Oh, don't do that. The collective here, for some reason, I can't click on these buttons. Now, we're in a Huey and in the MI8, you can click on the collective button. So, I'm not sure why you can't here. So, it's just a thing. Down here, everything works. The buttons all look... I mean, from far away, everything looks good. But, you know, zooming in now, compare it to a Hornet or something, it's all looking a little bit tacky. You can hear those button presses, I hope. I'm not sure we may get any noise from there. Maybe just be too quiet. The button press noises. Can't do that for whatever reason. I didn't think I'd find anything that was missing here, but it appears that I am. No obvious noise there. All this does what it's supposed to. Got the various auxiliary buttons here for the various flight instruments. I just put the gear up. That didn't work. God, that looks tacky now, doesn't it? Armament, everything works down here from what I can remember. Inner and outer beacons. ABRIS, everything works there, obviously. And you've got systems behind systems behind systems. It's all, I'm not even going to get started, but it's pretty comprehensive. Test everything on the PBI works. We've tried that. All the circuit breakers work, I believe. Pretty sure we've been through this already. There. Fire extinguishers, everything, well, everything works. Got the FM radios. This stuff doesn't work, whatever it is. I don't even know what that is. It doesn't work. I'm guessing some sort of IFF or something. I can't even remember what this is. Oh, it's the ADF. Here's the ADF. Look, found it. This doesn't work. Whatever this lot is doesn't work. Oh, this is the IFF. Look. And I always appreciate, you know, if you're going to spend your $50, $60 on an aircraft, I always appreciate that the guys allow these to click and move. It's just a little thing, but, you know, again, you're spending big money on something. You want, you know, you deserve it. So I would want to be able to move these stuff, even if it doesn't actually, you know, act in the real game. Just little things like that, little details we're looking at. This all definitely works. This all definitely works. Remember all of this. Weapons control panel, back, everything around here should work. I don't actually know what that is. Pressure gauges, so they're passive. That doesn't work, whatever it is, bit test. So it's definitely not a 5. That doesn't work, whatever it is. That doesn't work. I'm assuming it's a switch of some kind. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. These don't work. I'm a little bit disappointed, actually, because this is a complicated helicopter, as we'll talk about in a minute. I really thought all this stuff would work back there. Flares, I forgot to mention this, you've got your signal flares here as well as your countermeasures. That doesn't work, whatever it is. So there's a fair few missing parts. I'll say it's kind of 95% complete. I must admit, I was expecting it to be a 90 98 or a 99er, so that's a little bit disappointing. Graphics of the buttons and stuff are pretty shoddy, but I'll cover that in the graphic rating. So, ratings are difficult. My head says to rate it below 4 because we've got so many missing features, but my gut is saying rate it up to 4 because there's so much detail behind these PVIs and stuff like that. A lot of work's gone into that, the data link and stuff like that. So I'm going to rate it 4 out of 5 for interactivity and detail for cockpit systems. Go away. Next is the difficulty, and it is a difficult study level sim with a big fat manual. You really got to learn the systems if you want to get the most out of it, and the systems are not obvious how to use them. So if you like, it's a bit like an A10C with a rotary wing. To get the most out of just flying around, you really got to understand the autopilots, what all the different autopilots do. It's not quite as comprehensive as an A10C in terms of the amount of stuff you have to learn, the amount of weapons. So it's not as difficult in that respect. I would rate it somewhere similar to an F-14 Tomcat, maybe an FA-18. So I think I'm difficulty, I'm going to rate it 4.5 out of 5, 5 being the most difficult. Those definitely would not recommend it as a starter helicopter. If you want that, go to the QE, go to the MI8. So 4.5 out of 5. Next, we've got the history now. I'm not completely acquainted with this bird. You know, over 11 years I've flown it for, 1 year, and I've flown it about maybe 5 times in that 1 year, just don't have time to fly it. I remember, in terms of problems, I remember the data link didn't work for ages. I had to wait for about a year to get that data link video done until that was working. Other than that, I don't actually remember any problems with it. So again, my apologies, but I've got nothing anecdotal or useful to say in its history. I need you guys to tell me what problems it's had in the last 10 years. How quickly were they fixed? Were they major problems, like major weapon systems, or were they just, you know, weird auxiliary systems that aren't that important? So I'm going to have to let you guys help me out on that, please. So, as a summary, a big, powerful, capable, fast attack helicopter. Great. If you want to go taking out tanks and stuff, then this is the thing to do it in. Personally, I don't find the flying around in it as rewarding as an MI8 or as a Huey. Just, you don't get quite as much feedback and feel. So I don't find it as, you know, to give you as fun a feeling as those other modules. But it's not that far behind. Definitely would not suggest it for a starter for your first high fidelity module. There's a lot of systems to learn and master in here. And at the end of it all, although the graphics are a bit shoddy now, you know, 11 years old, it's still a good, solid, capable, fun module to fly. Hope that was useful, and see you later.